Hello, beautiful people of the interwebs. Camille here. Thank you so much for stopping by my little tiny but cozy corner of the interwebs. Yes, I do love that word. Tonight, I wanted to do a little video. It's been a long day. A nice day, but a long day. If you follow my channel, you know a lot of times I do film my videos after I get in the evening. And it's been a weird temperature ride. I don't know why I always give you guys the weather report like this is a weather channel, but it's what I do, so here we are. So it is December, and I am very excited that there's a crisp chill. We just had the air conditioning on like 48 hours ago. I woke up so hot, and it was, you know, so hot in here. It was 76 degrees in my house. And now I've turned the heat on to take the chill off. I have got a mug of a beautiful blend of tea that I really, really like. I can't get it anymore, which is disheartening, but I have a little bit. It's this beautiful lotus blossom, and I don't know what all she has in there. Lotus blossoms and rose petals, and I think there might be some mugwort in there, but I'm enjoying this. And I have a new mug. I love mugs. I have a few things that are my things that I love. Obviously tarot cards, coffee cups, used to be earrings. I've gone just with simple, cannot go wrong with a 1980s Jody Watley hoop. So hoop earrings, but coffee cups and coffee mugs are my thing. And so I have found on Amazon, cardinals are very, very special to me. It's Mr. and Mrs. Cardinal. So I've made myself as one of my favorite YouTubers would say, a delicious, heartwarming cup of tea. So I've got some tea, and I just wanted to just kind of a chatty video. I mean, let's be honest, aren't all my videos, but I wanted to, actually I'm going to put on a little bit of frankincense and myrrh blend of oil. Spiritual cleansing, grounding. And with the deck, I'm going to be talking a little bit, about this evening, one particular card from the deck, but with that deck, it really, the frankincense and myrrh, I'm realizing really works well with this. I'm gonna have to put it on the pouch that these cards are kept in. So tonight I wanted to talk about a specific card pull that I did for myself in my daily journal practice. And let's be honest, it's not daily. I really need to get back into my daily journal practice. If you don't have one, I'm not gonna should on you, but I'm gonna say, I mean, maybe you might want to. It's such, I think, an important part of a tarot reader's journey. And because the tarot made the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell, because it's this always ever unfolding, ever evolving deep dive of self-exploration, of explanation of the world around us, of our own psyche, of that of others, our clients. And I think that journaling is such a really important component, to use my quintessential Queen of Swords, you know who you are, to use one of her favorite buzzwords, a component that's so important. And she herself is a very big journaler. But I was journaling, and I need to get back into that with more consistency. But I was journaling the other day, yesterday, and I pulled a card. And usually with my journal practice, it's my daily journal practice. It's just usually shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And the only intention is, what do I need to know? What? and then I see what comes to me about that card. And then sometimes I will do update when I see that however that energy played out in real time later that day, sometimes even a couple of days later, but oftentimes it's later at the end of the day. It's like, oh, and now looking back, the big picture, looking back reflection on how it played out in real time. But this card is from Rose Bay's deck. And I apologize if anyone is watching this video and you do not possess the Sistine, I'm sorry, it's not, I always call it the Rose Bay Tarot. She's created several decks. The creatrix name is Rose Bay, and this is the Sistine Tarot. I apologize to anyone who sees this and is moved by this imagery. This deck is unfortunately out of print. She did a very short run. I was very fortunate that I got it on the total 11th hour, and I pulled the trigger and got this deck. I will say, if you do like the imagery of the Sistine Tarot, she has other decks, and she is currently in the process of creating a deck as we speak. So follow Rose Bay on Instagram, and you will see she's been posting in her, I forget what it's called on Instagram, stories, I believe, that the creation of her new deck, and it looks like it's going to be really, really lovely and beautiful as well. So you can't get this deck, but you can get other decks from this creator if you like the vibe of this deck. So it's a beautiful collage style deck that is very intentional in its creation. It is definitely Rider-Waite-Smith based, but most assuredly not a clone. And just being really honest, brain fog and memory issues that I've had for the past year or two, I've really been leaning very heavily on Rider-Waite-Smith, while definitely still working with other decks, but mostly other decks, not exclusively, but mostly in my own personal practice, as opposed to my professional practice. But I pulled a card from the Rose Bay, from the Sistine Tarot, and it really helped to give me some insight on something that I've really been struggling a lot with. Something that I've been struggling with on a very broad scale, a broad scope of trying to seek understanding, and also very narrow, specific individual in my life. I think what I'm going to do, let's show the card. I pulled the Two of Swords. So as you can see, it's definitely Rider-Waite-Smith based Two of Swords, but such a very unique take on it. And as I'm exploring and learning the Sistine Tarot, some things are pretty obvious. Unique spin, but pretty obvious. Some things I'm having to really sit with the imagery and really kind of take in the depth of meaning of what she is trying to convey. I woke up very groggy, as I often do. I woke up exceptionally groggy when I pulled this card. And so brain was having a hard time braining. And so I literally had to go to basics. I believe it's Rachel Pollack who said, when a card is giving you, stumping you a little bit, look at your card and literally say, oh, this is the Two of Swords. Sit with that. Just speaking the name of the card it was either Mary Kay Greer or Rachel Pollack, one of the OGs. So I'm actually going to read to you from my personal journal what I got from this card pull. This is such a beautiful deck. It's interesting how the figure has a hooded cloak, hands gently crossed with baby pink gloves. Her face is folds of pink velvet fabric, and the very center of it, a rosebud. The two swords are an authentic looking dagger, an athame, and the other a lovely long-stemmed rose. I immediately heard in my head, are you making decisions from a place of love or from fear, from intellect or emotion, compassion or defensiveness? My eyes are so drawn to the place where the rose and the dagger cross. What happens at the point of intersection for these diametrically opposed concepts? Is this why Crowley decks call this card either peace or truce in that system? The hood and gloves, are they a nod to purity? Or maybe, in this case, an attachment that makes way for wisdom? And the intentional hands sorry guys, I'm trying to read my own writing. Sometimes when you write, so your mind is going so quickly, your spirit's downloading so quickly, penmanship doesn't want to keep up. And the intentional hands of approach in order to sit with quiet contemplation when faced with cognitive dissonance. So then I pulled for a clarifier from the, not Robin Wood, Hanson Roberts deck, and I got the Fool. And it was just like, bam. This is where freedom lies, not to be misconstrued as naivete or stupidity or immaturity, because the hooded cloak already addressed the absence of that. So freedom from what? Expectation, defensiveness, altruism, resentment, undeserved access, suffering. When I think of the Two of Swords, and I do have it here in the Hanson Roberts, just for the visual aid of a traditional depiction of. When I think of the Two of Swords, oftentimes the Two of Swords for me, just as a general blanket statement, is about two sides of a story. It's about weighing the information, making choices and decisions where emotion maybe need to be considered, but at the forefront, the facts. You cannot be blind to the facts. And you may have to put on the blindfold. And the question of the blindfold becomes, am I blind to wanting to hear this? And am I sticking my fingers in my ears? Or am I closing out other, of the five senses, sight is the most commanding, I would say, arguably. And so where can I block out looking at the external so that there can be this internal conversation, this internal dialogue, this internal, and with the new moon, new awareness that will continue to grow. But I cannot be blind to the facts or the information, but maybe I want to drown out other people's opinions. It's also a very protective stance. When we just look at her body language and her posture, it's such a protective and protecting my heart. It's also very defensive of, she has two swords in her hands. So it's very interesting that Rose Bay chose to have, in contrast, one of those swords or daggers be a beautiful rose. And so it just started making me realize the word expectation, because I am having a bit of a conflict with someone in my life. And how can I approach things? And am I approaching what it came to me was the expectation. The expectation that I have of someone to shift their behavior. But when I think about it, how can I have, first off, that's the first place that I got myself into trouble, is having expectations. And so I invite you to consider, when there is conflict, can there be dialogue? Or is someone in a place of not wanting to hear, not receiving, continuing to double down and choosing to put the blindfold on or the fingers in their ear of la, 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 because their perspective, they don't want to look outside. They don't want to look beyond their own thoughts or ideas or the information that they've gotten and question that. And that does bring up a certain amount of lack of emotional maturity and foolishness. So are they wrong? Maybe. Or am I wrong in expecting that word expectation? It will F you up more often than not. I won't say all the time, but more often than not. Having the expectation of someone to not behave in a foolish, childlike manner, because they're coming from a place of emotional and psychological immaturity, naivete to the point of, oh, they don't have a lot of worldly experience, but they're continuing to double down and refusing to open their eyes and to see things from a broader expanse, let alone to be able to have dialogue, because that keeps them, quote, safe and protected. So then that begs the question of, how can I sit and make peace with the situation as it is and find this intersection of compassion, kindness, love, without over romanticizing, without letting emotion cause me to behave in a way that would be foolish. So as opposed to the defensiveness of crossing, if I'm taking on that role of the crossing, a protection of what? My peace. And again, as Spirit had me say, so this would give me freedom from what? One of those things was undeserved access. As my cousin used to say about one of our other cousins, God rest his soul, oh, darling, you have to limit your exposure to him. He's a wonderful person, such a good person, such a person who is so loving, but boy, talk about ready at any point for conflict. And always presenting in a very defensive manner. So how can there be full engagement? because when people are coming from this, and we all do it, I definitely do, I have, but am I trying to consistently work beyond that, to emotionally mature beyond that? Yes. And if someone else is not willing to do that, it's about me having freedom from the suffering. And where's the suffering coming from? My expectation. My expectation for someone to be able to engage in dialogue and perhaps have different viewpoints, but to meet in the middle and to make peace. Though this is a very specific conversation, a specific individual in my life, a very specific set of circumstances, I think it's also, I think I moved to make this video because it may be something that many of us are experiencing in our lives as we are in this time of people just doubling down obstinately of, nope, don't want to see it from your perspective. I know what I'm talking about. I'm right. And that blocks off the ability to engage in meaningful ways and respectfully disagree. And maybe some reasons at this point could be understandable. But as I look at the rose now, it's also making me think the self-compassion, the self-care that comes with protecting peace, protecting my heart. Because unfortunately, I actually really do care for this person. I do have love in my heart for this person. And it's such a mind F because on the one hand, this person would do so many things that are so loving and kind, yet at the same time, there's a definitive ugliness that stems from a place of making decisions from fear and a very naive and small, limited understanding of the world around them because there's not the internal dialogue of understanding their own inner landscape. And that begs the next question of, with that Two of Swords, truth versus fact. Because though something may be true, it may not be a fact. Your truth may not be a fact. An example of that would be tarot cards. This is a deck of tarot cards. That's fact. A traditional standard deck of tarot has 78 cards. That's a fact. A deck of tarot cards can be used for prediction. A deck of tarot cards can be used for self-discovery and self-reflection. These things are my truth, and probably anybody watching this on my channel, it's probably your truth too, but arguably that may not necessarily be a fact. So how can, and I love the gentility mixed with the power, with a very femme energy that is in the Sistine Tarot, of the wisdom. And I love that she has her person, her individual, to have a hood on, the cloak of wisdom. The cloaks can be protective, but to me, there's such a nod to maturity, wisdom, protection, but protection from a place of purity, pure intentions. And it's just going to be, I guess, a continuing conversation that I need to have with myself and with my spirits of how do I find that intersection? And I think that's what the great monks, the great spiritual leaders are able to do, so that there is this middle path, the middle ground, as is spoken of in Buddhism, because as Buddhists would say, suffering is a choice. So I don't know if that makes sense. I hope that it does. I hope that that maybe gives some guidance and some understanding for anyone watching this. And I hope that it maybe ticks off more questions in your mind for continued self-exploration. So until the next video, I'm sending you so many blessings, and I will see you in the next one.